Take a look.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Chris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community posts, all forms of social media you can get a hold of me. You already know the vibes, man. It's time for the NXT review. And what a happy time in the NXT universe it is, man. Shea Shu is officially back. They got their school back. They got the podiums and the MVP trophies back. The students are back. They're having a big party on the campus. The spring semester has just started. And we also have new NXT Tag Team Champions. Now, unfortunately for the D'Angelo family, this wasn't a good night, man. Adriana Rizzo lost against Jada Parker, and this is a pretty decent match, man. The crowd was really into it. They were really behind Jada Parker for, reasons. But, the match was fine. And then, on top of all of that, the D'Angelo family lost the tag team titles in the main event against the Wolfdogs. Baron Corbin, Bron Breakker are the new NXT Tag Team Champions. And early in the show, Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin made a deal that if they win the tag team titles, Baron Corbin has to officially roll with the name of Wolfdogs, and they did it, man. They overcame the odds. Baron Corbin finally has a championship after 19 years or whatever. It hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough that Baron Corbin has held some type of gold in the WWE/NXT. And this match was crazy. There was table spots and power bombs and deep sixes and people doing like this, and it was just an overall fun main event. New tag champions. This kind of makes me question what exactly are they doing with Bron Breakker, because we've been seeing a lot of him on the main roster. Is he gonna do double duty? Is he gonna pick Raw or SmackDown, because he's also the NXT Tag Team Champion? And on top of that, who is gonna beat these two for those titles? They're two big bad dudes, man, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see who steps up to the challenge. As far as the rest of the show goes, it opened up in a pretty funny fashion. You saw the Metaphor warming up in the back, and they got jumped by Von Wagner and Mr. Stone, and Mr. Stone's kids were involved, and I still say these kids look like Von Wagner. I don't know if that's on purpose, or I don't know what they got going on. I don't know if that's going to be part of the story. Probably not, but it's just funny how funny it is, They look like Von Wagner, so, there's that. But as far as the tag team match goes against the Metaphor, this was fun, pretty fun stuff. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend got involved. They ended up cheating on behalf of the Metaphor, and they ended up getting the win. And Von Wagner and Mr. Stone, they're looking pretty upset by this in the back. They're holding their heads in shame. But to make matters worse, you have this bum ass, different beard every week face ass Lexis King rubbing salt in the wound. And he's saying that, listen, your kids need to look up to somebody who's an actual winner. They need to look up to Lexis King. And Mr. Stone was like, you leave my kids alone. So pretty interesting acting. But speaking of Lexis King, he interrupts Obafemi later in the show. Obafemi's talking about his dominance, and he's talking about brute force, and he's talking about how, Dragon Lee's a warrior, but he was no match for Obafemi. And if you're going to send somebody after Obafemi, make sure there's somebody you don't want to see ever again. and of course this brought out Lexis King, and a lot of people don't really want to see this dude again. I know I make jokes at his behalf, and I make fun of his beard because it's just weird how every week he has a different beard. However, there is something to this kid, and he is showing some promise in NXT. And this is going to take him to a one-way trip to an ass whooping, courtesy of Obafemi next week for the North American Championship. But speaking of the Metaphor, the Orlando Combat Club, the no quarters, I don't have any pennies, maybe some dimes, club or whatever the fuck they're called. They got into the face of Noam Dar, and it's looking like maybe Charlie Dempsey is gonna challenge for the Heritage Cup somewhere in the future. One of these dudes is gonna challenge for the Heritage Cup. So I don't know. I mean, should be a fun match. But speaking of fun matches, we had Lola Vice versus Tatum Paxley. And poor Tatum Paxley, man. She got the holy hell beat out of her by Lola Vice. She was hitting her with every finisher that she has in her arsenal. The back fist, back kick, front kick, submissions. And the whole time, what made this so interesting is the fact that you had Lyra Valkyria actually come out to show moral support. And it's like, are they friends now? Is Lyra Valkyria, believing the hype of Tatum Paxley? Who knows? But the power of friendship was not enough to save this poor girl from the submission. I think Lola Vice called it the vice grip that she had locked in on Tatum Paxley. But Lyra Valkyria, being the good friend and good NXT Women's Champion that she is, she ended up carrying this poor delusional stalker to the back, where she was met by Shotzi Blackheart herself, who made her return to NXT. I don't know what she's doing here or how she got here or whatever, but this led her to a match for the NXT Championship or NXT Women's Championship next week. But someone who's not really too enthused about this is Roxanne Perez, because she believes that Lola Vice cost her opportunity at the NXT Women's Championship. So she's a little upset by this. And then you have Ren Sinclair. She's trying to talk and say words, and ended up getting slapped in the face by Roxanne Perez. And then later, Roxanne was talking to Ava, and it was like, dude, did you punch this poor girl in the face? And she's like, yeah. She was trying to talk to me. I'm not trying to hear this shit. I want my NXT Championship opportunity. And Ava's like, listen, next week it's going to be you and Ren Sinclair, and then after that we'll talk about the NXT Women's Championship. And again, Roxanne isn't feeling this, and we're going deeper and deeper into this heel turn. Eventually she's just going to snap and just go full heel, and I'm here for it because it's giving her more of a personality. It's giving her more opportunity to show a different side of Roxanne Perez, and I'm really cool with that. I'm really happy for that. That makes me happy. It gives me warm feelings in my tum-tum. Word to Simon Miller. But somebody who did not have warm feelings in their tum-tum, Dijak. He's hanging in the Dijak lair or cave or whatever he wants to call it, and he's watching back the footage of his match against Ilja Dragunov, where old Joe Gacy cost him the match and a possible title opportunity against Ilja Dragunov. And he's stewing, he's mad, he's upset by this. Hopefully this won't come into play later. I'm lying, it does. So speaking of Joe Gacy, he ends up having a match against Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo Hayes, he's getting booed out of the building because he's the biggest heel in the century. He betrayed Trick. He broke up Trick Mello Gang. So the NXT universe isn't feeling this man, not one bit. But Carmelo Hayes, even though he's evil and he comes out with a fur coat looking like Victor Sweet from Four Brothers, he's still him. He still doesn't miss, and he ended up getting the win over Joe Gacy. However, speaking of Dijak, he comes out after the match and beats up Joe Gacy. He puts this man in the straitjacket, and he beats him up some more. And I'm like, how mad do you have to be to beat up a man in a straitjacket? Like, you have to physically put him in the straitjacket and then beat him up. And then he dragged him out of the ring. So this is going to continue. This is a feud that never ends. But I'm not at the point where I'm just tired of it because it's entertaining, because they just keep trying to one up what they did the last go around with tables and toys and now straitjackets and no disqualification matches. So I'm here for whatever shenanigans they have left. But speaking of left, I almost wanted to leave this episode of NXT when Gallus came out, and this was a 3-on-1 gauntlet match against Ridge Holland. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, as I always am when it comes to Ridge Holland and Gallus. I don't give a fuck, man. I don't care about this storyline at all. I keep thinking that somebody's gonna come out and save Ridge Holland, because the story, I guess, is that Ridge has no friends, and nobody comes out. Nobody helps this man. This time he ended up, beating up Gallus all by himself, so good for him. But I don't care, man. I don't care. We just got to get this over with, man. I can't think of anything that I do not care about any more than this story between Ridge Holland and Gallus. I just don't care. And speaking of other things I kind of sort of didn't care about, yeah, the match between Kiana James and Brinley Reese. And Brinley Reese is kind of like Thea Hill 2.0, but more hyped and more turned up and more going off the energy drinks or whatever. And she does cartwheels, so there's that. So Brinley Reese lost, but she's still very positive, and she still does cartwheels. And Malik Blade and Idris Inoue are slightly impressed by this, so there's that. But we did have one last thing I do want to talk about, and that is the sudden breakup of Briggs and Jensen. So Briggs is talking to Jay Malachi. I forget what his new WWE name is, but Jay Malachi, he made his on-screen debut. Shout out to him. And you know, they're talking, and then Jensen comes out of nowhere, and they just start fighting. They just start squabbling, and furniture is moving. And Ava makes it official that next week these two former tag team partners, former tag team champions, and former friends are gonna fight. And I'm kind of like, well, where did this come from? I know that Josh Briggs kind of showed some tough love to Jensen last week, but does this like warrant them fighting? I guess so. I don't know. Maybe if he would have talked about his mustache and mullet, I can understand that. But you know, he just said, "Hey, grow the fuck up, man. Stop being a bitch." So I guess that's how we took it. So they're gonna have a match next week. So you know, good for them. And next week's episode of NXT looks very, very good. As well as this week's episode, new tag team champions. Chase U is back. The hot women are all over NXT, man. I'm a very happy camper. But with that being said, guys, what did you think of this week's episode of NXT? Let me know in the comment section below. Who do you think can beat the Wolfdogs? Let me know. Of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care. Be easy. I'm out. Peace.